My name is Sean Rowe, and I know I got a really low voice. Don't let it scare off your kids. Come forage with me and we can all rejoice. I know the world is ending, but there ain't no use in pretending. So just take your time, have some wild grape wine while the skies are bending. My name is Sean Rowe, and I know I got a really low voice. But if you're stuck with me, you're gonna eat a tree, you won't have much of a choice. My name is Sean.
Hey everybody, Sean Rowe here, and thanks for joining me on the very first episode of Can I Eat This? Now you might know me by my music, but you might not know that I am obsessed with wild plants, obsessed with wild foods. Join me as I take you around my landscape, my woods, and we harvest wild plants from the ground, from the trees, and we incorporate this wild food into our daily life, into our diet. It's a lot of fun, and it's a real passion of mine, so join me. Despite the fact that these leaves on this plant are huge, most people would overlook this as food, but I'm telling you that in terms of wild greens or even cultivated greens, any cultivated greens that you're gonna bring home and cook, this plant is a game changer. It is phenomenal. The flavor is outstanding, so I want you to know this plant. It's called Patience Dock. Sometimes it's just called Patience, but look at how big these leaves are. It kind of looks like rhubarb or horseradish in terms of the size of the leaves, and you might think that that's what it is at first, but get a closer look, come in, and you'll see how it's really different. Hello. Oh, he's okay. Hi. Hi. Oh, you. Hi. Okay, it's cute. So Patience Stock is a perennial plant, meaning it lives for more than 2 years. It's got a tap root, big large root that sinks pretty far down in there. And you notice that right off the bat that the leaves are huge. In fact, the leaves are so big, they're about, here's an average size adult leaf. The leaves are about half as wide as they are long. That's a characteristic of this plant. And also that the margins are slightly wavy at the base, and then they sort of taper off and they're smooth. There's no teeth on those margins. It's called entire. Botanically, it's called entire when the leaves have no teeth and the margins are smooth. The mid vein of the leaf is lighter green than the rest of the leaf. And if you flip it over, the underside of the leaves are lighter in color. They look like they're segmented, but it's really like superficial, these grooves in the stem here, okay? It also has this papery sheath at the base of the stem, right there. You see it again right here. Now, this plant is related to this other commonly known dock called curly dock. And they call it curly because of the margins of the leaves. They don't have teeth on the margin, but they are a little wavy. And this dock, Patience Dock, is less wavier than curly dock, but it does have that, they call it crisp margins, okay? And again, there's no teeth, it's just a little bit wavy. This plant has a compound called oxalic acid. Oxalic acid is really common in wild greens and cultivated greens like spinach, but in this particular plant, it's concentrated to a degree that you wouldn't want to consume this raw great quantities. I've had a little bit raw, and it actually tastes really good, but we want to keep in mind that the best way to consume this plant is actually to cook it, because the water you boil this plant in will take out some of that oxalic acid, and you don't want that building up into your system. So it's great. You can consume it by boiling the plant. So we'll harvest this, we'll cut it off at the base, and we'll take a few of the mid-sized leaves. And this whole thing is not only edible, but delicious. What you might want to do is separate the leaves from the stems, all right? So, and I'm gonna show you why. But the stems to patient stock are so tart and lemony. My son he calls them lemon sticks, because it's a real treat. And you can eat these raw. Again, you wouldn't want to consume them in large quantities, but you can just peel that outer skin layer of the stalk and eat it like celery. It's awesome. Really tart, lemony, crispy, so good.
And I never hit the spring so hard. A newborn song on an old guitar, and I know what it means to be alive.
In the springtime in the Northeast, one of the most common mushrooms that you can harvest wild are these mushrooms here. It's called Dryad saddle, or sometimes called pheasant back. And it's a great starter mushroom to get into mushroom hunting for a few reasons. One is because of how easy it is to identify. And another one is because it actually tastes really good if you get it when it's young. The amazing thing with these mushrooms is you can hear so much more depth in the environment if you just stick them right up to your ear. It's amazing how they do that. Like, I can hear so many cars. I can hear all the traffic right now. I know you guys can't hear any of that, but I'm getting, wow, that's fucking amazing. You never just want to go by one characteristic with any plant or any mushroom. You want to go by a few solid personality traits that make this mushroom what it is. Pheasantback has these superficial scales. They're not like bumpy, they're kind of flattened, but they're dark brown, lighter brown, and you always see this with pheasantback on the top here. It's overall brown, light brown, darker brown appearance, but those scales are conspicuous. They really stick out. Another thing is that this mushroom will grow off of dead stumps or decaying parts of trees, but you'll never see it coming out of the ground. It's not one of those kinds of mushrooms. It lives off of dead stumps. And I find that this is super common when you see a stump that doesn't have any bark on it. And then the other identification feature of this, and we'll cut one of these and I'll show you, is that on the underside, this mushroom does not have gills. It has pores, and it's called a polypore. And they're basically like little tiny holes on the underside of the mushroom. It's another key feature. Another feature is when you stick it up to your nose, you will get this strong aroma of watermelon rind. It's beautiful. It really does smell like watermelon rind. Very strange, but awesome. The way you would harvest this is, And the way you know it's really gonna be really good for the table is how tender it is and how young it is. Because when Dryad saddle gets to be an adult size, it's not gonna be good for harvesting for food. Because it's too fibrous, because the flavor will be not great, it's not gonna hurt you, but it's not gonna be good for the table. So you wanna let the knife do the work. Let's cut this. We're just really gonna take the edges. That's where the most tender part is, in the edges. Now that's gonna be beautiful right there. Like that. And then we'll let the rest of this stay on the log, and hopefully that'll come back. Now this doesn't look like a lot, but one thing to keep in mind with these mushrooms is when we go to cook them, they don't cook down as much as other mushrooms do. So what we gather is more or less what we're gonna end up with, provided this is all tender when we slice it up and all that. So that's pretty exciting. And it's delicious when it's young. It's really good. When you're harvesting mushrooms and you're bringing them home, never, unlike wild greens, you never wanna put them in a plastic bag. It'll suck the moisture out, they'll start to wilt, and they'll be nasty when you get them home. So bring something like a porous bag or a basket and stick them right in there, put them in your backpack, and you're good to go until you get home. Thanks for joining me in my kitchen. And the first thing we're gonna do for this dish we're gonna be preparing, which is gonna incorporate the Dryad saddle along with the patient stock, is to take out our mushrooms and to kind of clean them up a little bit and make sure that we're only using the most tender parts of them. So the way we're gonna do that, once you brush off any dirt that's remaining, is to use the knife and make sure that you let the knife do the work and just cut the most tender parts along the edges first. We're gonna just see if that knife cuts through nice and easy, you know it's gonna be a tender mushroom. We'll slice them about a 1/4 inch thick. The first thing we're gonna do is get this pan nice and hot and add some oil to the pan before I put those mushrooms in. What I'm gonna use today is avocado oil. It's another oil that's got a high smoke point. And we'll just get this pan rocking and then we'll get those mushrooms in there.
You drive me crazy in all kinds of ways. Love kicked my head and took down my name. Oh, what happened?
Once these mushrooms cook down just a little bit, what I'll do is I'll turn up the heat, get it a little hotter, and then I want to add some acidity to it. So I'll add in some white wine vinegar and we'll just go around the outer edge just a little bit. And we're going to let that cook off. So I want to make sure the temperature is up high enough. And then we'll bring it back down for a little while. We'll put it on just a simmer. And those mushrooms are going to be done really soon. And they'll just be marinating in that while we do the next step to this dish. So patient stock, when you get this into the kitchen, you really have yourself a few different vegetables that have different applications. It's really cool. So, but let me talk about what to do with this. So you have your stalk and your leaf attached, right? But as I said in the earlier part of this video, if you want to have those lemon sticks that you can just eat raw, and you can eat them raw in small quantities, you want to separate the stalk from the leaves, right? Easy enough to do. You're just left with the stalk. Set those aside. And I'm going to set the largest leaf on the bottom and place the smaller leaves on top of it. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll the leaf like that. And then I'm going to just slice it. And by doing that, the mid vein is thicker and it will cook down more slowly than the leaves. I'm going to take these stems and, of course, you can eat them. You're going to eat them raw. But I find that a cool way to utilize these stems is actually to take the juice out of them. And we're gonna use the juice like you would lemon juice to cook with our mahi-mahi. All right, so I'm just gonna chop these up just to get them to where I can put them into a blender. We're gonna take our stems, put them in this NutriBullet. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this through a jelly bag and we're gonna strain this out. It's gonna be green juice in there.
Up from the edge, and I will fly like I'm supposed to fly.
Yeah. Very tart. Okay, we'll save that. All right, so what we're gonna add to the patient stock when we cook it is a little bit of garlic. And what I wanna do to that garlic though is I wanna toast that. I wanna get it crispy because this patient stock is gonna cook up. It's so tender and creamy that I think with a little bit of crunch in there, it's just gonna make that whole experience of the texture in your mouth just so much better. We're just gonna throw in some salt, pepper, and a little bit of smoked paprika just to give that garlic a kick, and then we're gonna put that into our patient stock when it's cooked. And now we're gonna add in some of that patient stock lemon stick juice. Let that cook off a second. Now what I wanna use to garnish this fish is actually another wild plant called wild leeks. And wild leeks are out in the spring. This is from the harvest that I had a few days ago, and these are just the leaves of leeks. You can of course you can harvest the bulbs, as more commonly known, but the leaves taste just as good as the bulbs. They are garlicky and oniony at the same time, so they're really good to use, and you can use salads, whatever you would use onions and garlic for, you can use leeks for. Okay, I'm just gonna set my timer on 2 minutes. What the fuck? I don't know why that happened. All right, what the, what? Oh, 2 seconds. I set it for 2 seconds. Stupid. All right, here we go. All right, in it goes. And watch that color turn. Bang. We want to strain out that excess water as much as we can. Now this cooks down crazy. What we started with is just so much more than we're actually left with. But it's okay because the flavor is astounding. A little bit of olive oil in there. Of course, some salt, pepper, and my favorite part is going to be these toasted garlic crumbles here. On goes our mahi. Put those mushrooms right on the top of that. Amazing. Just like that. And of course we're not done yet at all, because we got to add our patient stock. Delicious. There. And then I'm going to take some of those leftover crumbles. I'm just going to put them on the top, just like that. And I'm going to take those greens from those leeks
I'm just gonna garnish the top of that, just like that. Okay. I made these Lacto fermented carrots. They were red and purple carrots, orange, and I made them with maple syrup, red pepper. It's really simple. If you've never tried to ferment your own vegetables, it's amazing. You're getting all that beneficial bacteria, but the flavors are incredible. They're essentially pickles, but really good for you. So we're gonna add in some of these, and that's gonna give us some nice color, but it's also just damn good. All right, everybody, thanks for joining me on the very first episode of Can I Eat This? I hope this whets your appetite, and I hope you want to come back for more. I'm really excited about this show. I'm excited to bring you all this wild food and show you how to cook with it, how to use it, and stick around. We have plenty more stuff coming. A ton of videos, a ton of episodes, and we're gonna have guests and all that. So stick around. Take care.
Oh, yeah. And I never hit the spring so high. A newborn song on an old guitar, and I know what it means